According to the anticipated results from polling agencies, the National Rally party led by Marine Le Pen is facing a significant setback. This outcome is also a severe blow to President Emmanuel Macron, who had called for early elections to reshape the political landscape following a defeat to the National Rally in the European Parliament elections last month. Ultimately, Macron has created a highly divided parliament, which could weaken France's role in the European Union, EU, and elsewhere, leading to gridlock in domestic agendas. The election is expected to result in a parliament divided into three major groups: left-wing, centrist, and far-right, with very different platforms and no tradition of working together. It is uncertain what will happen next, with hopes to control the prices of essential goods like fuel, increase the minimum wage to a net €1,600, equivalent to $1,732 per month. Increasing wages for public sector workers and imposing asset taxes. The new far-left People's Front immediately declared their intention to govern the country. The left-wing leaders stated that the will of the people must be strictly respected. The president must invite the People's Front, led by Marine Le Pen, to form a government. Although the National Rally has made efforts to shed its reputation for racism and anti-Semitism, many French people still fear the rise of the party. Many embraced each other, shouting with joy and shedding tears of relief at the left-wing gathering. In Paris, when the projected results were announced, the Place de la République was filled with a crowd celebrating. Left-wing supporters beat drums, lit flares, and cheered. The proposals from the far right for the government are outrageous. The left-wing alliance, comprising left-wingers, hardliners, Greens, and socialists, hastily formed a coalition before the election, they said. However, they are far from achieving an absolute majority of 289 seats in the 577-seat parliament. Polls estimate that the left wing will win between 184 to 198 seats. President Macron's centrist alliance is projected to secure 160 to 169 seats, while the National Rally and its allies are expected to win 135 to 143 seats. This could lead to political deadlock at least until the fall of 2025. Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the leader of the French left-wing party, has ruled out the possibility of forming a broad coalition with other parties. There are no signs yet of what President Macron's next steps will be. Some of Macron's allies, including former Prime Minister Édouard Philippe, had anticipated a broad coalition between parties, but this could not include the unyielding French left-wing party against the National Rally. The results diverge significantly from weeks of polls predicting an easy victory for the party. In an initial reaction, Jordan Bardella, leader of the National Rally, described the cooperation between forces opposed to the National Rally as a shameful alliance that will paralyze France. However, Le Pen, who is expected to be the party's candidate for the 2027 presidential election, stated that the election on July 7 has sown the seeds for the future. According to Le Pen, our victory is merely postponed. Voters have punished President Macron and his ruling alliance for the cost of living crisis, the failure of public services, as well as immigration and security issues. Le Pen and her party have capitalized on these grievances to expand their influence beyond traditional strongholds along the Mediterranean coast and in the Rust Belt of northern France. But this has not been enough to take power. In related developments, the Élysée Palace stated that President Macron would not address the nation after the vote. The president will analyze the election results before taking any next steps and will wait for the new parliament to be established before making necessary decisions. The statement added that the head of state would respect the choices of the French people. Meanwhile, French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal announced he would resign on July 9. According to French media, Attal was re-elected in his constituency and will join the parliament as a member. Prime Minister Attal also stated he would never accept that millions of French people voted for what he calls radical figures. A member of the new People's Front coalition has called for President Macron to accept defeat, and allow the left-wing alliance to form a new government. Far-right National Rally leader Jordan Bardella praised the breakthrough as the most significant in his party's history. President Macron had called for early parliamentary elections following the strong showing of the far-right National Rally in the European Parliament elections earlier in June. Before the July 7 vote, Macron's Renaissance Party and the New People's Front coalition used what the media called a retreat tactic. Up to 200 candidates from Macron's party and the left-wing alliance withdrew from the second round to avoid splitting votes between them and to prevent the far-right National Rally from achieving an absolute majority of 289 seats in Parliament. On July 7, French voters went to the polls for the second round of parliamentary elections to reshape the political landscape. Polls forecast that the far-right National Rally will win the most votes but may not achieve a majority. This could push the country into a chaotic hung parliament, severely weakening President Macron's government. If the National Rally, which champions nationalism and EU skepticism, wins a majority, Macron will have to accept a period of cohabitation until his term ends in 2027. The centrist and left-wing parties have been working together over the past week to create a barrier against the National Rally, reducing hopes of Le Pen's National Rally achieving an absolute majority in the 577-seat parliament. Polls indicate that while the National Rally will become the dominant legislative force, it will not reach the 289-seat majority that Le Pen and the 28-year-old politician seek for the prime minister role, steering France in a far-right direction. Polling stations open at 8 a.m. and close at 6 p.m. local time. The outcome will largely depend on whether voters heed calls from anti-National Rally alliances to prevent the party from coming to power. Even if the National Rally fails, the party will double the number of seats it won in the 2022 election and hold sway in a fragmented parliament. Such a result could paralyze policy-making until the end of Macron's presidency. With Le Pen expected to launch her fourth presidential bid, Macron has stunned the nation, with political allies and supporters angered by his call for early elections in hopes of defeating an opponent after losing to the National Rally in the European Parliament elections. Whatever the final result, Macron's political agenda now seems to be dead before his term ends. A government led by the National Rally will pose significant questions about the future of the EU, as France plays a leading role within the bloc regarding immigrant and minority communities. The rise of the National Rally sends a clear message that they are not welcomed.